We update them so you can have consistent cash flow. Long term is the goal with these. So we're putting in new furnaces, hot water tanks, roofs, windows. We're spending millions of dollars each year at Home Depot. In 4 months, we spent $1 million this year so far.
We're here, it's episode 49, and we're in Barbertucky, Ohio at Yoak Property headquarters. And I'm here again with Steve Yoak today. So we're gonna do an update. This is Steve's second time on the podcast, and we're gonna do a little update. So I think it was last summer we did a podcast, and I remember hitting 125 flips was a scary goal that you said was a maybe. So for the people watching, how many flips occurred last year?
We did 127 flips, and I think we did about 15, 20 rental properties that we kept as our own.
Meaning you kept as your own portfolio?
Yeah, as my own portfolio.
Okay, so a lot of people when we go to these networking events or even on social media, they think that you're just pushing out product to other people and you don't buy any of your own assets.
Oh, no, I buy my own assets. Exactly where we flip is the same areas that I buy rental properties in. A 20-minute radius of my office building in Barberton, Ohio. I am landlord neighbors with all the people I sell rental properties to.
So when did that start? Because I think a lot of people see you as the flipping guy. They know they're putting this volume out, and you predominantly right now are selling to out-of-state investors, right?
Yeah, we predominantly sell to out-of-state investors that can't find cash flowing assets in their own market.
Yeah.
That's the huge difference is we sell to people that can't find it in their own backyard. So I show them how to get it in our backyard. And we're not just giving them assets that are painted and we ship them out. We're truly updating these assets to protect them long term. Yes, you can always go find a cheaper deals anywhere in Akron. But what we do is we update them so you can have consistent cash flow. Long term is the goal with these. So we're putting in new furnaces, hot water tanks, roofs, windows, replumbing the house, digging up sewer lines, kitchens, baths, flooring, paint, lights. We really put a lot into it. We're spending millions of dollars each year at Home Depot. In 4 months, we spent $1 million this year so far at Home Depot.
Okay, so someone might look and go, oh, well, this guy's got to be putting the cheapest renovations possible. And why did you think it's worth it to go for the mechanicals, to go for these items when the common consensus might be spend as little as possible and just throw the asset away?
That's not scalable. I can't scale selling somewhat renovated houses to investors because who's going to make the decision? I have to make the decision on every house. But now it's a blueprint. My 2 project managers go into the house, they lay out everything that needs done, and it's systematic. We look at the furnace. I decide, hey, if the furnace is older than 10 years old, it's replaced because we want to make sure all the mechanicals have 10 years of life plus because standard furnace has 20 years on it. So if it's older than 10, we replace it. Hot water tanks older than 5, we replace it.
So a lot of people hear your story and they go, okay, Steve was a teacher in 2021 was your last year teaching?
April 17th, 2021 was the day my son was born, and that was the last day I was a middle school teacher.
So that means January, February, March of that year, you were still a teacher. That was still your main job.
A lot of phone answering in the hallway. Those kids, sorry kids.
So for people who don't know, how did you first get into, let's call it like flipping houses like this? Because you didn't just start on your own. You had some experience, obviously, that had to teach you, right?
Yeah. So I started with the duplex, the house hack, as we talked about many times before. Was in a partnership, and we were doing some burrs in Akron. And then we ended up selling a few of them, just disagreements on what to do with the properties. So we ended up selling a few of them to out-of-state investors. And I was like, oh, this seems pretty easy. They were super excited about the asset. We were still doing the same type of updates that we do now. We were just holding the properties.
And why was that not the right idea in your head?
To hold everything? So we had a little issue on the disagreement with my partners was kind of on the renovation levels. We were going in and putting in 20 kitchen cabinets in an Akron property, and we were blowing out walls where I had the opposite idea. Let's make extra bedrooms. Let's do 5 to 7 kitchen cabinets. Let's kind of reduce it a little bit. So that was one of the big things that kind of changed that mindset. And then I also focused more on furnaces and hot water tanks where when we were burring them, if they worked, we kept them.
So I have not opened up about this on the podcast, but we talked off camera that I had a similar, not partnership, but role before I started my own company, where you got to see some things that work, but then I saw so many things that were broken. And it was kind of a relationship where I couldn't say it was broken, or if I did, it wasn't really heard. So how many times as you were in that partnership or doing things then, were you taking mental notes of like, if I had my thing, I'd do it this way? Did you catch that pattern starting a lot?
Yeah, so when I was in this partnership, it was when I was teaching, so I was like the third wheel. They were full-time there every day, and I would just make phone calls and talk to them, and they were in Akron, Ohio, and I was in Brunswick every day. So anytime I brought up an idea, it wasn't heard to the full extent, it wasn't thought about.
It's kind of like, oh, nice, teachers talking together.
Yeah, nice, yeah. So, and I was looking at this, and we were, over improving these properties dramatically, losing money, putting so much into the renovation that we couldn't refi out, even to the value of what we had in, let alone the extra 30, 40 grand that it was. Let's say the house was worth 100 grand and we were putting 150 into it.
So I think everyone admires you for quitting teaching, but I guess from my side, how scary was it to go in as your own new venture after the partnership? Was that scarier for you?
It was pretty slow ramp, starting with one and then, kind of selling off some of the houses I got from the breakup of the partnership. So I was able to hey, this is proof of concept. And then I started buying them and renovating them. Started with 1 and then it was 3 and then it was 9. And, I still had that little teacher income still coming in. So I was kind of okay. And I still had my rental properties. So I was like, all right, I have a little base. I've saved up some money. And then when the opportunity arose that, hey, I could take an unpaid teacher year when I had my son. So the district I worked in, they gave you a paternity year, stay at home for an entire year with your child, but it had to be calendar year. So I got the rest from April all the way till August. I was still getting paid because I just took off for the child being born. And then from August to August, I took an unpaid year. And I could still have gotten my job back 2022 in July if I wanted it. But at that point, there was no way you were getting me back in those 4 walls.
And what was the weirdest part about how much grew? Was it shocking for you when the time came to whatever it was, July of 22, to realize how much because I think a lot of times when people walk away from the job or do that temporary leave, there's this maybe I do, maybe I don't.
I kept my license up. I think it finally expires this year or next. I didn't even look, don't even care. The tough part was I'd still stay at home and watch my kid a few days a week.
Okay.
And then I would come into the office or come into Akron after my wife got home, or the 2 days a week I was in Akron. I was trying to do all this. And eventually we had this, me and my wife, one of the few arguments we had, I wasn't working enough because I was watching my kid so much. I was like, hey, I can't work 2 days a week and keep up with what's going on. Because we were starting to get from 9 to 15 to 20 houses.
So it's like that meme where it's I quit my job to have time freedom, now I have no time.
Right, because I was watching the kid a couple days a week and I was like, man, this is getting crazy. And she's like, Steve, you said you were going to stay at home to watch the kid for, to the district. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think I would have 20 houses going on right now, babe.
And so then, was that the first moment where you and Alex kind of acknowledged oh, this is becoming a big thing?
Yeah, so my wife Alex, we acknowledged it and it was kind of cool. My brother at the time was only working a couple days a week for my dad. So I hired my brother for the 3 days a week I wasn't in Akron, and he would literally he had no construction experience. God bless Nathan Yoak. He's still on my Home Depot account because he was the only person that would pick up stuff back in the day. And now they understand it's a bigger account, but they still have Nathan's name on it. And he had no construction experience. So he would go to the job site and just take pictures of every room and send them to me. And he would sit in the truck and wait until I got all the photos and told him what to do next. So we had a list of projects he had to hit, and he'd send me photos from these houses, and then I'd send them back in to ask the contractors questions, and he'd put me on the phone.
Do you think having a kid forced you to delegate, whereas if maybe you didn't have a kid yet, you would have just been doing all that?
I definitely would have been doing all that, because once I was able to, I had Nathan doing some stuff. Because he's like, yeah, I'll still work for you a couple days a week. When I finally, my wife agreed that I could work 5 days a week, she was really holding me back, not letting me work 5 days a week. It was getting rough.
And I heard even yesterday you were driving around materials.
So yes, we're on pace to do 185 flips in our renovations, the secretary told me yesterday. And someone came to the warehouse, one of our contractors we had for a while, was out there just saying, hey, thanking him, shook his hand, got him some new shirts. We buy houses, and his truck was full, and I was like, I got to do the deposit at Chase for some stuff, and I was like, I'd throw them in my truck.
And your truck was empty.
My truck was empty. It's a glorified truck, I guess, right? I just enjoy driving it. So I was like, hey, throw them back in my truck. I got to stop at Chase, and I'm going to pick up Chipotle. You guys want lunch? So I picked them up lunch. I drove their materials. Mind you, I have multiple employees that could have done it, but it was like, I don't know. It's like, oh yeah, I got it.
But you still have a pulse on your business. And I think that was something, so we went to RubeCon twice. So we went last year in 2024, we went again this year in 2025. I want to give a shout out to Dustin. I think he changed the format of his event. So while there were less people, I felt like the people we did connect with, it was a much better crowd.
Yeah, the people at RubeCon this year, I thought just a little more deep dive, not necessarily looking to get in. And I don't want to say better or worse people. Everyone's like good people, but I think they're a little deeper into the content and ideas of real estate.
Well, and let's also be honest, there were a lot of people there last year that they're not here today in business. And we saw a lot of shiny object. Like that was my big takeaway talking to people not from the Midwest was they keep bringing up how fascinating the hard work ethic is and also how non-passive our business models are.
There's nothing passive about this. I was running materials yesterday.
Yeah, but I think that's something I want to talk about in this episode is, I think the first year we went, we would both agree that afterwards we felt like we worked too hard. I did at least. I think last year in 2024, I was like, man, everyone here travels all the time. They do these vacations, like they're very passive. And then this year, seeing how many of those people maybe aren't doing as well, they aren't having these opportunities, it makes you think that passive may not be the right move up front.
Yeah, I don't think any business is ever passive. There's no passive business, right? Until you've made it to where you're no longer a small business. I think that's 100 plus employees. Yeah. So let's just be honest with each other. We're all running small businesses. Yeah. And there's hands-on stuff that has to be done.
Yeah, and I think that was like a trap belief I saw pretty heavily. Because I think also over the last 4 to 5 years, the COVID economy was new. I mean, you obviously in 2021 was your scaling year. I'd say for me, 22 was when things got busy. But there were a lot of people that seemed like they had an up year when rates were low. And then when rates went up, they kind of went like this.
So that's interesting. A lot of what I do is based on interest rates because I sell houses based on ROIs, right? So we were selling houses a little bit higher because the appraisals were higher, the interest rates were lower, and they were worth more. But I had in my mind the whole time I was buying before the rates went up, I still had them at the same price I'm selling them at now, that 130 to 140 range. But they were worth more, so I was selling them for more. But when I was buying them, I was projecting 135, 140. And we were getting 150. So it was kind of cool to see that, hey, I could get a little extra, but I never changed what my baseline price was. So when rates shot up, everyone was in a panic because they overbought. And I was like, yeah, we're good.
And so this is the topic I want to go deep on today because we used ChatGPT in the car on the drive to Columbus the other night, and we were just looking at the stats of like what's happening in commercial, specifically multifamily. Huge. And for anyone watching this, it's May of 25, and the default rates are higher in commercial today than they were in residential in 08, which I don't think a lot of people realize. And for someone like yourself, I think you and others compare assets to assets. Look at Steve's single family. There's a syndication. There's this other short-term Airbnb opportunity here. How many times in the last couple of years did people think your assets were too conservative or not shiny enough?
All the time. Everyone's like, single family home. All I hear on Bigger Pockets is multifamily, commercial, syndications, Airbnb. Right now the Airbnb market is saturated so hard, especially if you bought in Florida. And then also they're trying to sell those things because the insurance premiums are tripling, doubling. Yeah. Like their cash flow is negative all day right now. And they're just trying to dump their assets.
And when they say the equity thing, it's kind of more just so they can sleep at night, right? I just have equity.
I mean, I guess, but if you can't sell it, do you really have equity?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, and that's what was scary. So I told you this off camera. We watched The Big Short for the first time, and probably 2 hours before that call, I was on the phone with a realtor from Florida, and she said the same numbers in that scene, where people, let's say they bought the home for $650, there was a point in time where it was appraising for $850, and now they would happily sell for $650, but they can't. So there's this thing happening, but in Akron, that's not the case. And I think we're seeing this unique thing where, let's say in Austin and Florida, things might be bad. But are you seeing right now in this market that there's really as much of a slowdown as those, or not really?
I'm selling more houses now today because people are seeing them and they'll be like, oh, this is a stable asset. There's still renters. There's still, values. Yes, Akron, Ohio is at a lower price point in the United States. So it's not dropping anymore. A 5% drop isn't a $50,000 swing here.
Yeah, it's much smaller. Yeah,
it's much smaller. And if it is, you're still having the cash flow. So it's not nearly as dramatic on the if there is a drop, but I don't think you can really drop a $135,000 house anymore, right? You're in California, you have $2, $3, $4 million homes. You take a 5-10% swing, that's like devastating to life.
Yeah.
You take a 5% swing here, you're like, maybe next week it'll go up 5.
Yeah. And it's very weird for me to see because I think for so long people thought, oh, Ohio investments is a scam. And I think the honest part is like there are bad actors. Like it's not
100%.
Yeah. So like for you, I think a lot of times when people make that comparison, like what do you think is the differentiating factor between a bad actor and someone who actually is like putting the right effort into their properties?
So a lot of bad actors like just paint the houses and then try to off them. Like if they're not updating mechanicals like your furnace, your hot water tank, your kitchens, your roofs, your windows, and they're not managing it on the backside. So my uncle runs a property management company. So we're tied to giving you a good asset because I'm not going to hand a turd off to him to go manage. He's not going to want to do it anymore. And now they exclusively manage my turnkey rentals.
Yeah.
That's all they do. It's my own personal rentals plus people I sell turnkeys to. So you can call them today and they'll deny you management unless you're buying a turnkey off of me.
Okay, and a lot of people might say that sounds stuck up, but why do you do that for your clients? Like why is that?
Oh, that's huge that they do that for their clients. We manage our own assets, right? Plus, we're not taking on houses that are dilapidated and need tons of work. Because what is that going to do? It's going to suck the resources out of the property management company and have them go to these problem properties. So we're able to be more efficient in management if we're only managing updated houses. It makes it extremely, I don't want to say easier, but it makes it so that you can actually manage these assets and provide the type of service you need.
Yeah, and a lot of times when someone's asking me questions about, well, okay, maybe I want to invest in Ohio or it seems legit, the first thing they always go to is contractor. They might meet Steve and think Steve is cool. Wow, this guy knows his numbers. He sees the opportunity. But I know across the country, I won't name drop, there's others that run businesses like yours that they go silent on their investors and they might have lost 3 construction crews and don't say anything. Like, how have you...
Call me. I'm ready. Call me.
Steve's hiring.
I'm talking about buyers. Like, I don't ghost anyone.
Yeah.
You call me, I answer the phone. I don't care if you bought a house off me 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago. I answer the phone. One of my favorite ladies from Hawaii that bought a couple houses off me called me yesterday. And she hasn't bought a house in 3 years. She called me and I was like, hey, what's up? I won't say her name so we're here, but answer it. She's like, oh, you remember? I'm like, of course I remember you. How you been? And we chatted. She's looking at picking up another duplex, and it was just one of those like really refreshing conversations. And she's just, I think she was a little bit shocked when I answered the phone and said her name. I save everyone's number that buys a house off me.
And is that, why do you think that is? Like, do you think a lot of people, they just get too excited and things go well and then it gets overwhelming? Like, have you had points in this where you've actually had to like maybe slow down or take a conservative approach when others have been like, keep pushing, keep going?
Keep pushing on what?
So, for example, I think a lot of people that are in a similar role to yourself, when they start scaling the flips, they will sometimes overbuy when they may not have the manpower to render this.
Oh, people that I think it's easy for us now, and we're such a condensed market, condensed area. I mean, we're only doing a 20-mile radius of Barberton, Ohio. Yeah. So like we bought 8 houses this week. I was like, hey, we need to hire 2 contracting crews, right? So right away, interviewed 4, got 2. They start next week, and they all I have to do is say, hey, watch my videos. Here's my Home Depot account. Check out the Pro Desk. Verify who I am and what we do. And if you need any references of my 15 other subgroups that I have, cool. So if I ever have a crew leave or whatever, it's not a big deal. There's 15 to 20 other crews that do interior remodels, plus all my other exterior, furnace, plumbing people. So we constantly have crews on crews on crews. And everyone talks about the dream of having consistent work, but no one locally can provide consistent work like we do.
And so on the inverse of that, I hear a lot of leaders struggle to hire, mostly for emotional reasons. For anyone out there that might go, I admire Steve, I want to emulate what he's doing, how much firing do they need to be ready to emotionally take on to get the right crews?
But when you first start, you're going to fire a lot of people. I have my base now, and I always joke about like my first contractor is still with me, and he is. He was texting me earlier today, had a personal real estate question we were chatting about. You fire a lot of people, you know, and I am the nicest firer. We just talk about it. We just talk about, hey, this really isn't working out. You've been in my 3-week project for 6 weeks now. You know, here's the progress to date, and then here's pictures of the last 10 days. Nothing has changed. You know, I think it's time that we will kind of part ways. I feel like we're paid you evenly to where we're at, and most people are pretty like, yeah, you're right. I've bit off more than I can chew, because I'm not like, I don't yell. I'm not a yeller. I'm just like, hey, like we all realize that
we know what's happening here.
This isn't working out. When you started this, you agreed to 3 weeks. I wrote 4 on the contract just because.
And now it's 6.
And now it's 6 weeks after the due date. Like, we've really went above and beyond for you here. I've tried to help you out, but I think maybe you've lost some people. And I try to learn on them. I said, hey, your crew might have been a little bigger when you started. It's tough keeping people, blah, blah, blah.
And so is it weird for you to be in a situation where you went from like getting the RIF letter or the reduction in force to then probably not even a year later having to then be on the other side making that call?
Wow, from the one on the chopping block. A RIF letter is like a layoff letter if the levy doesn't pass. Yeah, I never really thought about it. I just it's just something we had to do. Like, because I have interest loans that I take out on these interest only, you know, double-digit returns, right? So everyone talks about that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Talk about 100, 200 grand, then you multiply that times 80 houses. You're rolling $8 million at, let's just say 1% interest a month. Woo! Quick. Oh, you forgot about taxes? You forgot about insurance? Oh, you forgot about utilities?
And it just keeps stacking.
It just keeps stacking, right? And guess what, Northeast Ohio? You gotta leave the furnace on in the winter. It definitely catches up to you quickly.
So what would the advice be for someone out there who maybe they've started, they know they have a couple of the right people, but they're like, oh, I think there's some bad eggs around. Just be a human.
Be a human, talk to them, cut them off.
Yeah. And so just to give people volume, and these are going to be estimates. So right now, is it fair to say there's about 150 subcontractors at any Monday through Friday working on a Yoak property?
Yeah. If you're talking about like people in the crews, there's probably 150 workers to 200 workers out there swinging a hammer in a 20-mile radius, all for Yoak properties.
And if you had to guess, how many have been fired in the process? So to keep a golden 150, how many have probably been in and out?
Oh, been in and out? We probably rolled through 700, 800 people.
Well, this is something that I wanted to talk about because I was super insecure that we've had that same structure with editors, where I've had like 5 to 6, like I call them like the stallions, where they're great communicators. Like we're in pulse with them. Katie can message at any time when they're on a Zoom. But since we upped our standard internally, we kind of made like a pledge process where like for 3 weeks it's going to be hell.
A pledge process. I like this. They call it Hell Week, right?
Yeah. So
pledging.
Yeah, I think, we talked about it in the car the other day. So there's these files I created that are basically purposefully mistake files. So they think they're just editing my reels, and I'm messing up in all of them. And what we do is we run them through that. And I think like the hardest part was I learned to fire quickly, just because I think it wasn't hard. But Katie had to do it recently. And it was one of those moments where we kind of had to put an actual, like, hey, instead of this being an emotional thing, here's the numbers. So do you think that's also another part of the advice is, like, it can't be emotional, it should be like you're saying?
It's technical. Like, it's business. It's business. If you can't cut it, you can't cut it. It's the same thing like when we do tenant screening for the property management. It's on a rubric base. 12 plus on the rubric is going to get an instant rent wherever they want, right? If you're below a 12, there's going to be some additional documentation to see if you can get you up. But it's got to be just cut and dry, black and white. Like, yes, you're cutting it. No, you're not.
Yeah.
And it's tough in the rehab space because the projects are so long. Your edits are 30 seconds, right? They do an edit, boom.
You're going to feel quick.
Yeah, you're going to know real quick. Where me, yeah, everyone can demo. So they make week 1. I can't say a 1 week thing. Like, yeah, you can demo and start hanging drywall and paint. It's when you turn on the light and it doesn't work. Then you're like, oh, drywall's up. What are we going to do here, folks?
Yeah. The worst for us is sometimes we'll send a file and they'll send the raw file right back. And I'm like, this isn't touched. And then they have confidence, yes, it is. And
they forgot to hit save.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the Wi-Fi still, yeah.
Wi-Fi's still catching up.
There's a million. And I think, but on the inverse, you also have a good, let's call it close to home crew, right? So like a couple people that I've been close enough to work with here is like Bo and Derek. Derek, lifetime friend, Bo, someone you've known for a while. How has it been to trust people, let's say they're both a pretty similar age to you, they're also on the same vision? Like, how has it been working with those two?
Working with those guys is awesome. Like they're people that I can trust. They can walk a house. They can be my secondary eyes, and that's huge. I think that's kind of what you have in Katie, is someone that obviously you can trust. That's something you need to have, and I think we've been able to find people throughout the time process that are like, hey, we can trust this person. We've known them from here, or just different walks of life. People always seem to come back into the fold at some point. Early on, it's hard to get anyone to trust to come work for you full time.
Yeah,
because they still see you as the guy, the friend, the person having a beer, the person having a good time, and then they step into your office one day and they're like, "Holy heck, Steve, you got a lot going on."
Yeah, like this is what you did before you came over.
Yeah.
So I think one of the interesting things that we can probably compliment Derek and Katie for is their attention to detail. Sometimes can be horrendously annoying.
Oh God, it can be drive me up a wall sometimes when Derek's going through houses and nitpicking the heck out of them. But at the end of the day, it's providing a better product for the tenant and the buyer.
And how important is it for people to find that person? Because I think like if Derek wasn't your life friend and Katie wasn't my fiance, there might be some days where it's like, this person's really pissing me off. Like, do I need them in my company?
Oh, he still pisses me off on a daily basis. I love Derek to death, but he still pisses me off on a daily basis. But I know it's not. I think it's because I want the work quality always to be above and beyond. But he has a really fine-tuned eye and will always find something. It's like the home inspection.
Yeah.
Derek's never walked a house and gave it a green light. We always go back to do something. It's a secondary inspection. We'll follow the list to a T. And he's like, hey, did you see that shrub out there? It had a wild branch on it.
But for people watching, you need to have that person that cares more than you do at times, because like for you, you're so focused on like taking that buyer call. When the lady from Hawaii reaches out, and you also are dealing with wholesalers calling. You've got Sean like asking questions, so there becomes this whole ecosystem, and I think you have to have those people that almost care more about the details than you for it to work.
And there's been times that Derek's came to my office, started asking me questions. I said, just go make a decision. And he'll tell you that. Like, he walked around and started talking. I'm like, make a decision. Just go do what you do. And I think at first he was kind of mad when I said that. And then later on he's like, I get it. You have other things going on. I'm here to make a decision. You trust me. I'll make decisions based on, how level of needed to be level. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, he has kind of a threshold. Like, how much can I do without asking Steve?
And what about Bo, right? So Bo is obviously the one that connected us, so shout out to him. But how did you two meet originally?
We were playing football. We were 8, 9, 10, I think.
Okay.
Pee-wee football, and Bo always jokes. He's like, it always sucked when I had to go try to tackle you, Steve.
So you've known Bo for a while?
Yeah. So I've known Bo since we were,
I didn't know this.
Yeah, 8, 9, 10. So I went to his kid's birthday party with kids the same age. His mom's like, hey, Steve, how you been?
So when did the work relationship start? So did you guys go, I'm assuming like high school and college, you did not go?
Didn't really talk much high school, college. I don't think we talked at all. And then he was working for other companies that we were using here, and kind of saw, he was in the Yoak atmosphere of companies we used, JLM Landscaping. We were using them for mows and some cleanups and blah, blah, blah. And then he went in a different direction, and he was a free agent, and we had him in and picked him up, and he's played many different roles in the many different companies at this point, and now he's doing acquisitions. So send Bo all the deals, he'll go walk them. Even if you send me a deal, Bo's probably going to go walk it.
All right, we're back. We just switched shirts real quick.
And wardrobe change.
Recruited Kip. But I think the last thing that we were talking about was you've been through several different chapters in working with others, starting your own thing, and then you two kind of simultaneously starting your venture together. So Kip, I think for the people who don't know, what company do you run, and kind of tell people what your role is here?
I run Renew Home Exteriors, which is a window roofing siding company to retail buyers, meaning people who own their own property. We work traveling, pretty much covering all of Northeast Ohio. We have our own crews. We have roughly right now 4 sales reps that go out, do estimating, and definitely has grown quite a bit over the past couple of years.
And people don't know, you flip-flopped. You used to be an insurance guy.
Correct.
So what was it about insurance that you just couldn't stand anymore?
There was a lot of red tape with insurance. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services made all kinds of rules about how to market. And when you're in sales, you have to be able to tell people who you are and what you do. In insurance, you were not allowed to do that. You had to wait for them to ask you. So your marketing costs started skyrocketing, and then on top of that, they were cutting the commission. So not only were you paying more to market, you were making less per sale and less to service that block of business. And I just seen over the years that I was in it, it was heading in the wrong direction. It was time for something new.
And in that time period, you slowly became a Facebook ads wizard. A lot of people
Correct.
don't know that about you.
Yeah.
So when was the first time you remember thinking like, I'm going to test this out and see how this works?
I was actually still in the insurance business, and again, I was transitioning to that. You have to market yourself in order to get into the houses. So I really learned at that point how to market and generate my own leads through direct mail, through networking events, and then when Facebook started becoming really popular in the early 2007, 2010, and then they started their ability to sponsored ads, which I think was somewhere in 2012, maybe?
12, 13, yep.
Yeah. I jumped into it then and started learning, and at first I thought it was the worst thing ever because I just spent a bunch of money to get nothing.
And why? Okay, so a lot of people will try that, right? I've heard probably endless amounts of people go, oh, I boosted something, nothing happened.
Right.
So why did you keep pushing at it? Like, what made you go, okay, maybe this is me, not the ads?
The idea that I kept telling myself every time I stopped is you're marketing to something that somebody holds in their hand and stares at for 8 to 10 hours a day. And to be able to, unlike TV ads where you're just mass blasting it to everybody, to be able to pour in your core group, your age, what their interests are, and then market directly to them. Learning how to do that, to me, was going to outweigh it in the future, but there was definitely a learning curve in there.
So you weren't married to Facebook, it was the concept of more like digital or mobile advertising.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I heard so many people talk about this, and they kind of get married to platform, and then the platforms change. So like Facebook ads today, how different is that from the Facebook ads you first tried?
Oh, well, it's a lot more honed in on who you can market to. Back then, there wasn't so many categories that you could pull from. And then in other ways, they've made it more restrictive on if you're doing anything with housing or offering any type of finance, you have to declare the ad. So you have to kind of be careful with your wording.
Yeah.
And then the other way it's changed is just so many more people on it. So the cost of your bidding has really skyrocketed from when it first started.
And so there's a new level of competition, not just in targeting, but in the creative. And
Right.
even something like we noticed is still a lot of people are using image only.
Right, and in the beginning you could only use images, you weren't using videos.
Yeah.
So you had to have a good hook line. But now the trick is to have a video that pops up that makes them stop, engages their interest.
Yeah. And Steve, from your side, like, did you know Kip was doing this, or was this just like you guys would casually talk, you talk business, and then all of a sudden you just knew Kip was generating leads?
At what point in this? I mean, Kip's been texting me about real estate and wanting to get into
Specifically the Facebook ad side, because that was something when I met Kip, like not many people in Ohio even understand Facebook ads. And then when it was like, it's not like that he just knows them. He's like outperforming agencies and even like Facebook itself.
When we were generating leads for the roofing company, and they were like, he's like, oh, $5 a lead. I was like, that sounds really fucking cheap. I'm sorry. Sounds really freaking cheap.
Yeah, that was something.
During COVID, when we started generating for the roofing business, I was just primarily focusing on roofing, and I was getting leads, and I thought, man, this is really great. No one's marketing for roofing. Of course, once COVID ended and everybody got back in, that $5 an appointment went away, but it did help when we were first getting started because I was getting appointments for $5, $5. And I remember I would turn them on Friday, and we each had a spreadsheet, and we would get a notification, and I attached it to like a Zapier, so it would notify us and then send out auto emails and text to book them. And we would be texting each other, laughing, like, there's another one, there's another. I remember one Friday night, I think we got a total of like 14 leads in a matter of an hour, and like 50% of them booked. And I'm like, our cost for customer acquisition is so low, it's unbelievable.
I didn't close any of them.
I did.
So in that process, what do you think it made you realize just about the opportunity with the internet? Like, was it kind of shocking to see that you could click a couple buttons and then actually have real life appointments afterwards?
I knew it because I was doing it with the insurance, but when I went into advertising for roofing, you don't know because, insurance, so you would pay $7, $8 a lead. And then I came up with a call center over in the Philippines when, before they had all that do not call lists in there, and I actually took my wife's voice and recorded it onto a dashboard, everything that you would use during the call, and then answers. So the Filipinos were calling for $2 an hour, and they would just press buttons, and I was developing leads, and those leads cost me like $3 for insurance. So, and then I was running Facebook ads for insurance, but when you get into different areas of marketing for different things, you just don't know until you start doing it, and then there's a trial and error period. So while those leads were costing me $2, I was expecting the roofing to cost me $50, $60, $80. It wasn't like that during COVID though.
And now, obviously in insurance, you are technically an entrepreneur, but there's a parent company, correct?
I ran my own agency, and then I was considered a broker. So I had 7 or 8 different companies that I would sell for. And when I first went out, it was just me, and I would just go door knock. My way of marketing was I would door knock 300 doors a week to get in and make some sales. And then I got the idea, well, what if I send out a flyer introducing who I am and then put my picture on it?
Everyone threw it away immediately.
Yeah. I would handwrite out 50, and I would mail off 50, and then the next week I would go knock on all those 50 doors showing them the letter, and I would get in and make my sales off that. So instead of just randomly knocking 300 doors, I really honed it in to what my client base was. And then from there, with the insurance business, the more sales you make, you get a higher contract. So they have what they call insurance agents and then marketing organizations. So a marketing organization, if you sold a life insurance policy, the total payout was 130% of the premium for the first year. So if you sold $1,000 premium, you made $1,300. Then if you had an agent, maybe you paid the agent 50%. So then you made the difference. That was your spread. Well, when I started, I was an agent knocking on the door at the 50%, but then as my name went up, I kept getting higher contracts. Then I had directors from insurance companies calling and asking me if I wanted to go direct, and I eventually, from 2007, by 2010, I was considered a marketing organization, and then I started recruiting, and I had agents in multiple states, and I would go around and train them.
And how much more fun has it been to restart the growth in roofing? Like, I think when I talked to you and first met you...
Fun! Restart! It's fun! Kid had a full head of hair when we started this.
Yeah.
I still got mine, though.
I've built sales teams from scratch over and over. I think this time it's been my 6th time doing it since I've been in sales. and it's definitely a young man's game.
So what is the hard part about, let's say, hiring a sales staff, not only from then but also now, right? Because I think this is one of those jobs that, like, my generation, I think sales is like a bad keyword.
Mm-hmm.
It's like not a good thing. But then you see certain people do it who take care of their family, they do well for themselves.
Yeah, definitely.
What's been the hard part about, let's say, finding sales people today in 25?
Everybody seems to want a salary. In true sales, you don't want your commission capped. So if a company's going to give you a salary, they're going to give you a very, very small commission. So your actual ability to make it, if you're good at it, actually goes down in what you can make. If you're bad at it, it gives you some security, but if you're bad at it, you probably shouldn't be in it. And eventually they're going to move you out anyway, because they're not going to continue to pay your salary if you're not selling enough. Definitely older people, 40 and up, understand the idea of all commission, and they appreciate it and they like it. It's getting some of the younger people to take that chance on themselves.
Do you think it's like they're less confident?
Yes.
But from your perspective, and you as well, Steve, do you think it's a skill set issue, or do you think they're capable? Like, do you think that there still is a lot of this generation, or do you think there's a weird thing happening where so many of us younger kids, or let's say young adults, we went through COVID, we had an isolation period, and now socializing and sales might be like a harder thing for them?
Actually, one of my top sales reps is 22, and he's very much a go-getter, and he understands the idea of all commission. So when you find them, and you get them buying into it, and they believe in it, and they start to see that money come in, then you got something special. But
toughest part to get at the start.
It's the part of getting them to start. So what I've done is I've tried to do everything I can to make fast commission advances. When they sell something, they get money very, very quickly.
To feel the reward.
To feel that reward quickly. That's how our pay scale works. And make sure that they can pay their bills. So I always say, if you're out selling, you're getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Just like you would on a regular job if you're working for $20 an hour. The difference is in sales, you can make $100 an hour. You can make $150. It's really up to you how much you want to put in and how hard you work at it.
What are some of the unique personality traits you've seen with the best salespeople throughout all of your careers?
Say outgoing.
Yeah, outgoing and just come across genuine. If they're sitting with the customer and the customer knows that the project consulting is putting their best interests ahead of their own, and they're not there just trying to push for a commission. If they show that, hey, I'm really trying to work and design this house the way you want it, the way you like it, make sure that you're getting what you want, then that's the type of person that you want. And
do you think that can be trained, or do you think that's something you have to find in an interview?
I think that genuine type person you got to find in an interview. I think if a person isn't genuine, they're just not genuine.
You're not going to train that.
You're not going to train that. I can train how to pitch, how to measure, how to price, how to create your material list, and closing techniques, but you can't train somebody to be a genuine person.
Yeah.
Like dog lover or not,
Yeah. Right.
Okay. So right now with Renew, I think one of the things that, I do have several friends, they're open to sales jobs. Like, what does that look like if someone would want to work for Renew? Like, what would maybe a week working with Renew look like for a sales rep?
I always say it's the easiest low-paying job or the hardest high-paying job. Depends on how you want to look at it. We spend a lot of money, as you know, in marketing. We have a lot of leads coming in. So a rep typically gets about 8 to 10 appointments a week that are just preset to them. They're what I call gifted to them, to make sure that they get in front of somebody and they're there pitching our services. Now, in between that, we want them to work our leads that we also have, work their networks, and then go to networking events and basically just tell people who they are and what they do. You've seen that firsthand at some of the real estate networking events, and you're out there talking, and we're talking about Renew, and next thing you know, afterward, I'm bombarded with people who want my card because maybe they flip houses and they want a solid roofer on their team, or a real estate agent. And when they're getting ready to close a deal, the roof fails inspection, and they need a roofer that's going to put their priorities first and get it done for them. So It can be a really fun and rewarding job. The people who typically don't make it are the people who want to take our 10 a.m. appointment and our 6 p.m. appointment and do nothing in between. And then they might make a little bit of money, but if you're going to work 10 hours a week, because an appointment lasts an hour, and you're getting 10 appointments, you're working 10 hours a week, how much money would you make if you went to a job and worked 10 hours a week?
Yeah, how much?
Right.
Well, depends.
Unless you're Steve and he can only work 3 hours a week. And
8 on the phone, 3 in the office. I mean, Renew probably is going to install 150 roofs for me this year.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of roofs, you know, and service their clients as well. So I think that's huge to think about, just the scalability of it. And I mean, within a week of request of roof, I have a roof on typically, unless there's serious rain like this week. But my one I had that was a leaker, they got in for me today, so that was good.
And another thing I think a lot of people don't realize is that you actually vet contractors. Like that's something that, you know, I've been in Cleveland at certain video shoots where, you know, these contractors are unlicensed, haven't slept in 4 days, and that roof comes off in 10 minutes, but something's wrong with it.
Right.
So like you've not only taken care of, it seems, the sales side, but like quality is something. Like even Kayla shouted out at the last event. She's like, not only do these guys work with investors, but they also do the high-end stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Our installers work really directly with us. They go from renew job to renew job to renew job. They're factory trained on how we want it installed. Our project manager, Sean, inspects the work not only while it's going on to make sure it's correct, but then when it's completely done, and then he does a final walkthrough with the customer. And if there's anything that he deems is unsatisfying, then, you know, we'll get it taken care of and fixed. There's always a small punch-out list when you're talking about large siding jobs and window jobs. But even new contractors or new roofers or new siders, I get messaged constantly because we are known as one of the top companies to work for, because we don't do what a lot of other window siding roofing companies do. And when they turn in their invoice, they cut down their invoice. We just give out a pay sheet, and this is what we pay, and they fill it out at the end of every job, and they get paid every Friday.
Those DMs do happen a lot, yeah.
Correct. So you see them.
Oh, yeah.
So we get a lot of them, and if we're going to try somebody new, we're always happy to give somebody a chance as we're growing, and we always need more crews. But we started on Steve's properties.
You got to have a little runway.
Little JV varsity.
Right, because we'll know if there's an issue with this guy, I cannot put them on a retail property for a homeowner. And that gives us an advantage that...
they do 10, 15 jobs on a vacant home being watched closely.
Correct.
That I own, and to make sure they're up to snuff. I mean, that just makes sense.
Their cleanup is good. They're working professionally, and then before we put them onto a retail customer's home, they got to go through background checks. And then we've also seen 8 to 10 of their jobs and seen how they work and know that this is somebody that will carry our core values into a customer's home.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question. You have to answer immediately, okay? So that's a challenge. What is the best siding?
I'd say it's all side Ascend for the fiber composite by far. I put it on my personal house. It's beautiful. If you're going to go vinyl siding, then I would say that's all side Charter Oak. There's nothing that competes with it in the market.
And on the inverse, what is the worst siding that is still on homes in Northeast Ohio?
Well, I'm not a favor of aluminum siding.
You're talking about stuff that you're going to put on now. You're not going to put on aluminum now.
Yeah, you're not going to put on aluminum now.
You're talking about you're talking about like a .36.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about a thin grade, a .040 thin siding that's like a new construction grade.
And
where
it's
they
dark
do
color.
Yeah, they do the Tyvek wrap, and then they throw it on, and within a year, the sun beats down on it, and that stuff starts warping.
Yeah.
Right.
And now that you are in this, can you not see a house, or is it every house you see, you're doing a quick siding check, you know the roof?
Oh, I was sitting at our community pool last year, and they had just had their house re-sided by a company, and they used a dark siding with Tyvek wrap and a thinner grade product. And I was sitting at the pool looking at it, and as the sun was beating down on it, not only did they use a thin siding, but the installers installed it correctly, nailing it too hard to the wall so it didn't give any flex back and forth, and the whole back just bubbled up. And then I pointed it out to a couple of the other people at the pool, and we were all like, oh my God, look at that. So I ended up taking a picture of it as an example and sending it out to the sales guys of why it's doing that. Not only is it a dark siding and a thinner grade, but then it was installed improperly. And then by the end of the day, when the sun went over, it leveled back out. So over time, with that expansion, because it's nailed too close to the wall, that siding is going to become brittle and start breaking, and that customer just paid, I don't know how much. Too much to have that product put on their house for siding.
Talking about a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
And that brand new siding that's
not going to last. And probably the reason they did it is they didn't understand the differences in the product, and all they got was siding quotes, and one guy was $2,000 less. And all they seen was $2,000 less.